Complaining. Imagine a traveler who is about to embark on a journey to a new city. He's excited, but halfway through the trip, a fierce storm hits. He can't move forward, nor can he go back. In his frustration, he starts complaining to everyone around him. He vents about how unfair it is, how bad the weather is, and how everything seems to be working against him. But there's another traveler standing nearby. She smiles, sits quietly, and begins reading a book. The first traveler looks at her in disbelief. "How can you be so calm? Don't you see the storm?" She replies, "I can't change the storm, but I can control how I respond to it." Complaining does nothing to improve your situation. In fact, it only intensifies your frustration and anxiety. Stoic philosophy teaches us that instead of focusing on what we can't control, like the weather, or in our case, external events, we should focus on what we can control: our response, our attitude, our choices. Ask yourself, is complaining helping or hurting your emotional state? Redirect your focus to positive or productive, just like the traveler reading a book in the storm. Gossiping. There were two farmers in a small village. One farmer always kept to himself, working diligently and quietly. The other farmer, however, spent his free time talking about others in the village, spreading rumors and gossip. He found it entertaining to point out others' mistakes and failures. One day, a great opportunity came to the village, a chance to trade their harvest for a much better price. The gossiping farmer was too busy spreading rumors to notice, while the quiet farmer focused on his own work and made the most of the opportunity. The gossiping farmer missed out on his chance and was left with regret. Gossip distracts us from what really matters. Stoicism teaches us to mind our own business and focus on our own actions. Engaging in gossip may feel like harmless entertainment, but it creates unnecessary negativity, anxiety, and often damages relationships. Instead of talking about others, turn your attention inward. What can you improve in your own life? Focus on your growth rather than the drama around you. Seeking approval. Let me tell you about an artist who lived her entire life seeking praise. Every time she painted, she immediately asked her friends and family, "What do you think? Do you like it?" If someone didn't praise her work, she felt crushed. Her entire happiness depended on others' approval. One day, she met a wise philosopher who said, "Why do you ask others what they think of your work? Does it change what you think of it?" She realized that she had been painting to impress others, not herself. The moment she stopped seeking approval, she began to create art that truly expressed her soul. Stoicism teaches that constantly seeking approval from others leads to insecurity and anxiety. What really matters is what you think of yourself. Other people's opinions are beyond your control, but your self-worth comes from within. Free yourself from the need for external validation. Trust in your own judgment and focus on your personal values and growth. Over-explaining. Picture this: a man who always felt the need to explain himself in every situation. Anytime someone questioned his actions, he would go into a long explanation, trying to justify every detail. This habit made him anxious and frustrated, especially when people didn't understand or agree with him. One day, he met a teacher who told him, "You don't owe everyone an explanation. Let your actions speak. Those who care to understand will." From then on, he learned to speak concisely and confidently, and to let go of the need for others' approval. Over-explaining is often rooted in anxiety and a fear of judgment. Stoicism reminds us to focus on acting in line with our values, If your intentions are good, there's no need to over-justify your choices. Simplify your communication. Trust that your actions and your sincerity will be enough. You don't need to convince everyone of your worth. Comparing yourself to others. In a forest, there were two trees growing side by side. The first tree constantly looked at the second tree and thought, "Why is that tree growing faster than me? Why are its leaves greener?" The first tree became so obsessed with comparing itself to the second that it forgot to nurture its own roots. One day, a strong wind blew through the forest. The first tree, weak from neglecting its own growth, fell to the ground. The second tree, strong and focused on its own progress, stood tall. Comparing yourself to others only weakens you. Each person's journey is different. Stoicism teaches us to focus on our own growth, our own path. What others are doing is beyond your control, but what you're doing is fully in your power. Avoid comparing your progress to others. Focus on your own journey and celebrate your achievements, no matter how small. Arguing to win. Two best friends often debated politics. What started as friendly banter turned into fierce arguments. Each wanted to prove the other wrong. Over time, their arguments became more about winning than about understanding each other. Eventually, the friendship fell apart because neither of them could admit when they were wrong. A mutual friend told them, "You've let your egos get in the way of your friendship. Remember, the purpose of a conversation is to understand, not to win." Stoicism reminds us to prioritize understanding over victory. When we argue to win, we feed our ego and create more tension. Anxiety and anger often follow. Instead, seek truth and understanding in conversations. Approach disagreements with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Focus on learning from the other person rather than trying to dominate the conversation. Holding grudges. Finally, let me tell you about a man who carried a grudge for years. A childhood friend had wronged him, and the man could never let it go. Every time he thought about the betrayal, he felt anger rising within him. He didn't realize that holding on to this grudge was like carrying a heavy weight everywhere he went. One day, he met an old monk who asked him, "Why do you carry that burden? The person who wronged you has moved on. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you." The man finally forgave his friend, and it felt like a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders. His anxiety and anger melted away. Stoicism teaches that holding grudges keeps us stuck in the past, trapped in negative emotions. By letting go and forgiving, we free ourselves from emotional burdens that fuel anxiety. Practice forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for your own peace of mind. Letting go of past wrongs can help you find calm and emotional freedom.